All right, black turpentine beetle, Dendroctonus terebrans, is a native bark beetle that affects pine species in the southeastern United States. This is essentially the largest of the common bark beetles that you'll find that affects our native pines, and it is one that is usually associated with stress. It usually affects trees that have been, maybe affected by fire, maybe that have been possibly struck by lightning, or associated with some sort of stress. This is also an interesting. This is one that, if a pine tree is going to survive a bark beetle attack, it's most likely going to be this one, because sometimes I've seen pines that can survive being attacked by this, even though I wouldn't bet on it, but I've seen them, survive being attacked by black turpentine beetles. So anyway, Dendroctonus terebrans is a big bark beetle. So here we have some examples just to show you. I mean, in comparison to, say, the southern pine beetle or Ips, you can see it's a pretty chunky beetle. It's pretty large, and it's kind of fat, and it's dark in color. That's what gives its name, black turpentine beetle. You can see it. Some of the others are kind of reddish brown or a little bit lighter. You can see this one's pretty dark in color, comparatively speaking. And so in terms of identifying this one, there's a couple things. One, this generally attacks the trees in the lower portion of the bole, or the lower part of the trunk. And so that means, well, a couple things. One is, because it's so big, it's able to penetrate directly through the bark plates. And so you can actually see that here in the sample we have. This is actually a pitch tube that was from the black turpentine beetle, penetrating directly through the bark plates. That's because, well, partly because the beetle's so large, it's able to do that. It's part of its ecology. It's able to go directly through those bark plates rather than between. It's capable of doing that. And so because it's so large, you get these really large pitch tubes. You get pitch tubes that are bigger than, say, Ips or southern pine beetle. And also, because it's so large and it's able to, it's able to go directly through the thicker bark, that's why you tend to see it attacking the lower part of the tree. It sort of has that niche, whereas the other bark beetle species, generally, you don't see them attacking the lower portion directly through the bark plates like that as much on a live tree. So it has its own, sort of its own ecological niche. So identifying features for this one. Also, I guess I didn't mention the galleries. Let's talk about that. Because it's so large, the galleries are wider, and they tend to be shorter and, somewhat undulating, but not as, I guess, long and windy as the southern pine beetle, but they tend to be, kind of short and wide, but some, they don't have the same distinctive characteristics as, say, Ips. And so that's essentially the main identifying features of the black turpentine beetle. Its large size, dark color, the fact that it goes directly through the bark plates, and you have those larger pitch tubes.